Dr. Cronkite once said, in seeking the truth, you have to get both sides of the story. Coming to you live from the impact area of information and the destination of deliberate discussion. Welcome to Depth of Perspective, where the truth has no bias. With your host, Alex Kirsch. Information is our weapon, and we aim it on the azimuth of fire towards a better future for our country. Prepare yourselves for the arrival.
And good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to another episode of Depth of Perspective, here in association with the Alex Kirsch Project, here with the 365 Broadcasting. We are streaming live from YouTube. Feel free to go to our website at www.365livebroadcasting.com. Depth of Perspective is where the truth has no bias, where we evaluate every issue, both political and social, in the hopes of keeping the populace informed, but still leaving them with the ability to decide for themselves. This isn't a brainwashing hour. This is an hour of deliberate discussion, and where people of all political affiliations can come together and collaborate. So without further ado, let's get this party started. My guest hails from the Pacific Northwest. He's a conservative content creator with a YouTube channel called The Colored Conservatives with his fellow content creator, Saleem Juma. They have taken on the PC culture in the Pacific Northwest. They have taken on the ANTIFAs, the SJWs, and the cancel culture that continues to plague our society. He was a guest last year when I was just getting started in the podcasting industry, so it's only fitting he comes back again. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to Depth of Perspective, Dion Finch. How you doing today, Dion?
Hey, what's going on? My real name is Dion Thompson. Dion Finch is one of my aliases,
Gotcha.
And I can tell you why, which is hilarious because I keep it as Dion Finch on Facebook, simply because of employers, because if they see, what my social media looks like, they might not like it very much.
No, that's completely understandable. So, it makes perfect sense. So, just kind of recap everybody that's tuning in right there. So, where did you guys come up with the original content? Because at one point you guys were called Operation Cold Front, and then you changed to Saleem and Juma, and then you guys became the Colored Conservatives. I mean, where was all the progression and the change?
Yeah, that's a great question. So I joined Operation Cold Front, about a year ago, maybe a little bit over a year ago, actually in January of last year. And, we just did these man on the street interviews, and we just came up with random topics. We picked an article and that kind of stuff, and we just talked about them. And then in June, we kind of got screwed over in the sense where, one of our partners didn't agree with what we were doing, that kind of stuff. So we left. Saleem and I left the Operation Cold Front. So we started Saleem and Dion. And then I, being the marketing guy, eventually convinced Saleem, like, look, Saleem and Dion just doesn't sound right. Like, we got to go with something more powerful sounding. So we came up with the Colored Conservatives. So, we've been the Colored Conservatives since about maybe end of July, maybe August. But it's been great. Ever since we started Cold Front, or I started with Cold Front, Antifa's coming after us pretty hard and that kind of stuff. So it's pretty wild.
Yeah, I could. Well, it's funny because when I saw the first term Saleem and Dion, I was like, oh, Saleem Dion.
Yeah.
That was the first thing that came to mind, and I thought that was kind of funny. So, I remember when you and Saleem actually came on my show before. I mean, it was a Facebook Live, and it was still a very good show. I mean, it kind of gave everybody an idea about what you do. But, when I first started talking to you, most of what we were talking about you guys are going out there asking questions of certain people. And, there'd be some people that didn't want to really talk to you and things which is fine. I mean, you guys were always respectful and said, that's okay if you don't want to talk to us. But most of the time, people seem to be pretty genuine towards you. But a lot of the times, there was also people that you encountered that were like the Antifas, right? Now, the thing is, we've always been very clear. It's okay for people to disagree with one another, all right? I know you and we have differing opinions when it comes down to politics and social issues, but that's okay. It's okay for us to have these discussions. But it seems though you've encountered people in the past that have said, no, you can't believe this. And I know you've had a lot of, slurs sent in your direction. People have called you very derogatory names and things like that, and you don't have to share like those names on here, but you're welcome to do so. But the thing is like that's the thing that we've noticed the most is that it occurs quite frequently. Am I right?
Oh, yeah, absolutely. And some of those terms, and I'll share them here, is quote Uncle Tom. I've been called a traitor to the black community, and I don't really care. Excuse me, about those terms, because I was holding an MLK event. Mm-hmm. I don't know if you saw this video that kind of went viral on somebody else's footage, of course. But it was funny because I was holding an MLK event.
Yeah.
On January 20th, obviously. And the whole point was to showcase that, A, Martin Luther King was a Republican, and B, regardless of skin tone, exactly what Martin Luther King said, judged by content of character, not by one's skin tone. And it was funny because, I was the black guy hosting that event.
Yeah.
And they were calling me racial slurs on an MLK event. Like, that's exactly why I hosted that event, because I wanted to see, I wanted to show the world, like, look, like, black people hosting, pro right-wing black events are being racist again. It's hilarious. So, and that's not the only thing. I've been called numerous things. I mean, I've lost count of how many things that I've been called before. It's just hilarious. So, yeah, it's pretty wild.
Yeah, I know Saleem has as well. But
yeah,
like 9 times out of 10, you guys are always very calm until somebody puts their hands on you, because I've seen Saleem just lose it on people. But that's completely fair game by then, because I'm a firm believer. It's okay if you guys have a discussion with somebody and they disagree with you. But the second you put your hands on somebody, just all bets are off right there. And it's just, I thought it was just completely outrageous that people felt that it was okay for them to put their hands on you, but you can't, defend yourself. I mean, to me, that's just absolutely ludicrous. But, again, I mean, you guys are always very respectful of everybody else. Like, if they don't want to be videoed, you don't video them. But, if you're like on a public sidewalk and people come up and want to talk to you and things like that, and they could obviously see that there's a camera right in front of you, then, I mean, but 9 times out of 10, I mean, have you ever actually had like consistent discussions as of late? I mean, before the whole COVID thing broke out, were you starting to have better interactions with people that disagreed with you, or was it kind of about the same since then?
That's a great question. So it's always been about the same. So when we first started, it was very hard for us at first because we didn't really know what we were doing, of like how to get people's attention, like to say, hey, you want to do an interview? But we've always had really good conversations consistently. But back around last year, between around this time last year to about June, Antifa started coming after us really, really hard. So it was getting even more difficult back then to have a decent conversation with someone. Now, we still had, 8 out of 10 good conversations with people, or 9 out of 10 roughly. But there would always be at least once, almost every time in our old videos, where some Antifa idiot came up and, started acting crazy and started screaming in our face and that kind of stuff. And we never really engaged. Like, we verbally engaged, but we never physically engaged until they touched us. And there's been a lot of those times as well.
Didn't they dox Saleem and his family?
They did. I think it was around May of last year that, or maybe early June, I can't remember, where they doxed his liberal Democrat parents' house.
Yeah.
And not him, which I thought was like really just ridiculous because, his parents have nothing to do with what he's doing on YouTube, and they doxed his parents. It's like, really? Like, how does that make any sense?
It doesn't make any sense in my eyes. I mean, first things first, I'm a firm believer that you should not dox anybody, okay? That's not okay. You shouldn't call their place of business, which has happened quite frequently. You should not leak anybody's information out because, first things first, it's dangerous. I mean, I might not always agree with those that, of their points of view, but I don't think anybody should get doxxed. I don't think their family should get threatened. And I think the reason why I just was so bothered by that, because like you said, his parents are liberal Democrats, but he is his own individual person. And just because you come from somewhere doesn't mean you have to follow a certain line. You shouldn't have to follow a certain code, which, it always bothers me as well. I'm kind of go to kind of push a little bit of the limit right here is that, whenever people like yourself, right, that may have a difference of opinion than most other people, right, if you're perceived to be like a liberal or a Democrat. But if you don't go that route, then obviously they say, well, you're not a true black person, for example, which I find is always insulting, actually, because, well, the question is, what is a real black person, honestly? I mean, but last time I checked, we're all Americans here, but,
Exactly.
I'm pretty sure you've had that question. It's like, well, what is a real black person? I mean, what kind of a black person, what do you perceive as a black person kind of deal? I mean, I don't think there really is a true definition because, we've got stereotypes.
There is no definition because, look, I've been asked that question in my entire life because, apparently to a lot of people, a lot of idiot people, they say, well, you don't talk black. You don't talk black. How do you talk black? Like, do I have to talk like this? Like, I can't even emulate it. I mean, it's unbelievable. Like, how do you talk black? Like, or how do you act black? It literally doesn't make any sense. And I've been asked that question my entire life. And is it because I speak intelligently, because I use big words and, and stuff like that? I mean, it's unbelievable. And I've been asked that question more in the last year and a half to 2 years than I ever have in my entire life. And by most people who ask that question, it's usually idiot liberals who think that black people should think one way. It's usually that.
Yeah, and to me, that's just absolutely ridiculous. I mean, last time I checked, we were all individual people. We are all individuals that are driven by our own passions, our own life kind of deal. And honestly, I mean, to me, that's like the worst kind of stereotype you could possibly think of. I mean, what is a typical person? I mean, do they think like a typical white person is just some white trash hillbilly redneck or something like that? Of course not. We're our own individual people. Yeah, sure, you might go to certain parts of Appalachia and you might see stuff like that, but that doesn't mean they're bad people necessarily. But it's just like, but that's my whole entire point. And the thing is like, the thing that I've always noticed that you guys are doing is you're kind of going against the grain of what's going on in the Pacific Northwest. For example, right, when you guys hosted those big signs that says it's okay to be white, because the second they see you guys doing that, people suddenly agreed with you. It's like, oh yeah, sure, you can be whatever you want to be. But if you were to change the demographic of the person holding that, then how would they be perceived? Like, for example, if I was to hold up a sign like that, how would I be perceived as?
Right. And that's kind of our whole point doing that particular video, because it's perfect, because how can they be mad at us and call us racist when we're saying it's okay to be a different skin tone?
Yeah.
So it's crazy. Those videos are like my favorite. Whenever Saleem and I, both come up with the idea, let's do an It's Okay to Be White video, I'm like, let's freaking do it. And I honestly hope sometimes that I get attacked for it, because almost every time we've done that video, it's gone viral.
Yeah.
And I think it's absolutely hilarious that people attack us and then call us racist when we do those signs. It's unbelievable.
Yeah, absolutely. So since then, have you guys had anybody that special, like anybody like that's a big part of the movement, like join in with you on your rallies or your discussions, or has it been just kind of like you and other fellow content creators?
That's a great question. So, Saleem and I's goal was not just to be boots on the ground for the rest of our lives. And that's what we've been doing, right?
Yeah.
So I started hosting a lot more events personally at the end of last year. And then we've been going to events like that and all that kind of stuff. So a woman actually reached out to me on January 20th, is the day I held that MLK event. And she is the chair of the outreach committee for the Snohomish County Republican Party. Mm-hmm. And which is huge because basically what I'm saying is that the GOP actually noticed of what we're doing on boots on the ground work. And because of that, they actually want to work with us to do interviews for people who are running for office, people who are in office, that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
So we've definitely been noticed by people outside of what we do, for sure. And that really makes me happy because, again, like I would go crazy if I was boots on the ground the entire time. I kind of want to do a mixture of, boots on the ground as well as kind of back end stuff.
Absolutely. And the one thing that I've noticed from like yourself and like other content creators out there, I don't necessarily see you guys like provoking or causing mischief and problems, because like I don't know how you feel about like the Caitlyn Bennett's of the world, but I think she's doing a lot of stuff that's kind of unnecessary. Like, I even did like a quick segment called, I call it Tighten Your Shot Group, which is basically like putting idiots on blast. Because honestly, I think she's kind of annoying at times. I mean, you're free to disagree with me, but the thing is, I have a feeling she tends to provoke and just cause mischief and problems, and then pretends to be she's the victim right there when she's actually following people and harassing them. And now, I'm not condoning when people, entire colleges surround her and threaten her and throw stuff out there. I don't condone that, but sometimes I think she goes in there just to kind of prod away at somebody. I mean, what do you think?
That's it. Yeah. So, I absolutely can't stand people like that. So, I will say, I'm a fan of Caitlin Bennett, but I'm not a fan of what she does sometimes, like you said.
No, that's fair.
Yeah, but there are certain organizations out there and certain individuals that claim victim when they say, come on, hit me, hit me, hit me, hit me, hit me, and they keep doing it and keep doing it and keep doing it and keep doing it. And then, of course, the other guy, usually an Antifa member, flips out, and then they hit the guy, and then the guy that's hit says, oh, well, now I can beat the crap out of him. And in the guise of self-defense, which I think is BS, because they're the one who instigated the fight, and it happens all the time. I could name off so many individuals and so many organizations that do that, and it's absolutely, it's stupid. And I won't deny I've done that before too, but as soon as I started realizing I was doing it, I'm like, okay, let's back off. But when you have organizations that say, hit me, hit me, hit me, hit me, hit me, you don't have the balls to do it, you don't have the balls to do it, you don't have the balls to do it, they get hit, and then they beat the crap out of them. How does that look on our side?
Exactly.
Seriously. How does that look on our side when we're the ones who are supposed to be the less violent ones?
Yeah.
And it absolutely makes me mad because it tarnishes the Republicans' image, and especially the boots on the ground, which is why I've been trying to get away from the boots on the ground as much as possible, because of that stupid stuff that's happening. Not always, but there are certain organizations and there are certain people that do it, and I'm on their side. We agree on 99% of the things.
Yeah.
But their methods I don't agree with.
Oh,
yeah, and this is why I've publicly come out and I've said, and Saleem as well, that we're not a part of any organization because we don't want to be a part of any kind of drama like that.
Oh, sure.
So that's why we created our own group.
Yeah.
That's kind of my answer for that.
Oh, absolutely. And the thing is there's actually a reason as to why, myself and, Big Sarge and our friend Gary, is we kind of distance ourselves from those that call themselves, so-called patriots, because as a matter of fact, we feel like they're not actually patriots. They're actually tarnishing the word patriot, and they're doing really unnecessary things by causing a lot of unnecessary drama. And I feel like that's why it's important for us to kind of distance ourselves from those, so we kind of, separate ourselves from them, because we don't want to be associated with that. We want to be the people that, we can extend an olive branch out to other people. I mean, I'm sure you and I can both agree. Even if you disagree with somebody, you should still be free to extend an olive branch out to them and talk to them about, hey, you and I don't agree on everything, but hey, why don't we just kind of find a way to work together to come up with a cohesive solution to this problem? I mean, even we've even reached out to some guys to help work with us in the future. They're called Bridging the Gap. They've got great content as well. They lean more predominantly liberal and Democrat and whatnot, but we're always capable of having good discussions with them. I mean, they're really, really excellent guys. But that's the kind of stuff that we need to be looking for, because even if people disagree with us, we should be able to still have a conversation, and we should still have the ability to I don't agree with you, but I'll sit down and have a beer afterwards. Absolutely. Yeah. I mean, that's kind of like what, the founding fathers really wanted for us, was the ability to agree to disagree.
I completely 100% am behind that. Because a couple months ago, actually, it was right around President's Day. Actually, it was on President's Day. It's kind of a funny little story, because you mentioned having an olive branch reaching out to another side, and I actually did that with an Antifa member. And this Antifa member is notorious for doxing people. And trust me, I hate the guy. I absolutely hate the guy.
Yeah.
But I was like, okay, this is my one shot to to uphold my message, to uphold my message of reaching out to the other side And I got total crap from it and from all these organizations and all these different people. The only people that actually liked that I did that were people in the GOP.
Yeah.
So, it was kind of funny because all these different organizations were like, well, we're calling me traitor and that kind of stuff, for simply having a conversation. Now, yeah, I took a stupid picture with one of them. Yeah, I was all buddy with them, which was stupid. I will fully admit to that. But, at the same time, I upheld my message more than all those other people that were giving me crap for, and yet they also say that we try to reach out for them, but they they've destroyed lives. Yeah, they've destroyed lives. Of course, they've destroyed lives. Antifa's they're mentally unstable, obviously, but that doesn't mean that they're not human.
Yeah,
you should still try to talk to them, and by shutting out the far extremists from the other far extremists, you're never going to get anywhere. Period.
Of course.
Yeah.
Well,
so yeah.
Well, so actually, kind of like moving on into that, I think I'd ask your opinion about this. You remember the Virginia rally, right, where they said it was going to be like worse than Charlottesville, but it actually turned out to be like one of the most peaceful demonstrations. They even there was a lot of discussion about how some of those guys that helped organize the event actually brought Antifa in, and then they said, "Let's keep the peace this one time." I mean, how do you feel about that?
Well, as far as I'm aware, there was not one arrest, right?
There was only one arrest because Big Sarge was actually there. And it's because she refused to comply with the guards as she's trying to break into it. But that was the only one. Everybody else, there was people that were liberal, Democrat, Republican, conservative. They were all there. And they were all there just to celebrate the one thing. And there was a certain person, goes by the name of Adelaide. I can't remember her name, but she's like a real hardcore content creator, and she was spreading all this propaganda about how conservatives are working with Antifa. Well, the only reason they work with Antifa was to ensure that there was no violence, because Antifa was going to show up anyway. They were guaranteeing to show up, but they brought these guys in and essentially said, "Listen, let's keep the peace and just unite for this one cause." And actually, a lot of them complied. They actually stuck it out, which I thought was a pretty amazing thing, actually.
Yeah, and that's what I try to do, and I get crap for it.
That's unfortunate.
Yeah, because people see me, and I don't know why people see me like this, but people see me as a leader in this movement because of what I've done. Mm-hmm. And look, I'm not the leader type. I mean, people think I am, but I'm not. But they're like, "Whoa, how could you do this?" And I'm like, "Well, I just found out right now that happened in Virginia, and nobody really talked about it." So I think that's awesome that they finally came together on this one thing, and it proves that if you can come together on one thing, then you obviously have something in common. So you should build upon that relationship. Like when I was sitting down with that Antifa member, we literally were having a beer over what we discussed.
Yeah.
What we agreed on was gun control.
Yeah.
And we disagreed on pretty much everything else.
Yeah.
But I was like, wow, we actually agree on something. I never thought that would happen. So I think that's a great thing that people are trying to come together. But I think it's a disgrace that other people are not adhering to that when they say they are. You know?
Absolutely. I mean, to me, that's true progress right there. That is true progress.
It is.
I mean, there are people out there that say, "Oh, this is a progressive idea." I think a true progressive idea is coming together and come into a general consensus. Even if we don't agree, we're still able to function and we're still able to work. Because, I could go into a supermarket, right? And I would not know anybody's political affiliation right there. I would just treat people the way they should be treated, right?
Exactly.
I mean, that's how it should be. Even if you don't agree with me on a certain issue, I shouldn't have to treat you any differently. But that just seems to be like the modus operandi of some people, to just go out there and just attack or attack somebody on the personal level. Because I'm a firm believer, if you have to get personal with somebody in the middle of a discussion, you've already lost the debate, essentially. Because, I mean, I'm sure you can vouch for that as well. I mean, because
no, absolutely. Because I mean, if you think about it, there was that TED Talk. I can't remember the guy's name, but the black guy who went to KKK rallies. Mm-hmm. People thought he was insane, but he actually turned the Grand Wizard of that organization basically disavow his organization.
Well, that's awesome.
So, yeah, it's an amazing story. But yeah, no, you're absolutely right. If it gets personal, then you've already lost. Like if you're calling each other insults, that kind of stuff, you've already lost the debate.
Absolutely. So actually, before we're going to go into our halfway point, I want to kind of share something real quick.
Sure.
Big Sarge actually wrote a book. It's called Implosion, America's War on Patriotism, right? And for those out there in the audience, feel free to check this out. You can find it on Amazon. And basically what it's about is America's at war. The left is mounting an attack on conservatives nationwide. Their propaganda war machine is at full speed. Good patriots are being attacked on the world stage by the leftist propaganda war machine. Our ideals, ethics, and traditional American values are being dismissed little by little. They are turning patriots against patriots and Americans against Americans. What can we do? Where do we go? And what are the answers to combat this? So what do you think about that? Does that sound about accurate to what's going on nowadays?
Yeah, what's going on today is just that sounds exactly what's going on.
Absolutely. And the other thing is, like, that's why we find ourselves distancing, because there are far too many people out there that say that they're patriots, but what they're doing is they're actually wanting to be the leaders. And like, it seems as though everybody that claims to be part of the patriot movement, right, they say that their way is better than somebody else's, and therefore they should be the ones that people should turn to listen to. I mean, especially in this industry, in the podcasting industry, it's really cutthroat. We find ourselves like, we found ourselves like being surrounded by people that say, yeah, man, I'm with you all the way. But then secretly they're actually going behind your back and feeding information to somebody. You know, just kind of, but that's the thing that we're noticing is that people that say that they're going to be your friend, right, that you're supposed to be on the same side, they're actually working against you, which I mean, have you guys encountered that as well?
We have numerous times. Organizations have betrayed us on an internal, not on a public level, but on an internal level. Individuals have betrayed us. Individuals have left us, turned their backs. They've never given information about us because we're very private people. Yeah. But and we make sure of that because I've seen it happen to other people that people are best friends with someone and then they piss them off for God knows what, and then they just leak a bunch of information like where they live to Antifa, and like literally, I'm not kidding you, not a single person, actually one person in the Patriot movement, who I trust very dearly, knows where I live. Like I know thousands and thousands of people in this movement. Not one of them know where I live. Period. And I make sure of that for a damn good reason because I make a lot of money with my career. I have businesses. I'm not going to tarnish that, and I don't care who it is.
Oh, certainly. I mean, I can't say I blame you one bit because sometimes anonymity is the best weapon for you to use against somebody because the less people know about you, the better. I mean, they should only know you for what your kind of content you're trying to spread, and that's it. So, I think it's great, though. I mean, I think what you guys are doing is just absolutely fantastic. I mean, I like the content you guys put out, and there are some points that I see you guys do, and I see you make posts all the time on Facebook. I'm like, but that's okay. I mean, what am I going to do? I'm going to come after you and say, oh, well, you've got a different opinion? Absolutely not. I just let it fly, That's
yeah.
But I know you've got. I mean, certainly you've got friends and family that see differently from you, right?
Oh, absolutely. And I talk to some of my best friends who aren't even involved in politics, and they're like, "Oh, you're a Trump supporter, but like we'll still hang out."
Oh, absolutely. And
yeah.
That's the way it should be, actually. That's the way exactly it should be. I mean, it shouldn't be like you have to think exactly what, because like I think groupthink is one of the worst things you could possibly do because if you just agree with somebody just because they're your friend or because like you just don't like the other person, but you don't actually do your own research, I think you're doing yourself a greater disservice, honestly. I mean, just we try to get away from the whole groupthink idea as well.
Yeah, and that's another reason why I'm not associated with any group at all, regardless of what side it is, because you have to follow their orders, you have to think how they think, and that kind of stuff. And I just don't like that, and that's why I'm an independent content creator.
There you go. All right, folks, so what's going to happen is we're going to take a 3.5-minute break, okay? You can take this time to go use the bathroom, go get a top off in your beverage, what have you. We'll be back after 3.5 minutes. Stay tuned. And we are back, ladies and gentlemen. If you haven't done so, please go ahead and hit like and share. Don't forget to subscribe to my channel. You can also, if you haven't done so already, feel free to go over to Dion's channel, The Colored Conservatives. The link is down below in the description column right there. And be sure to also check out his Facebook page, and be sure to check out my Facebook page as well, The Alex Kirsch Project. And feel free to also go to our website at www.365livebroadcasting.com for additional content from there on. So anyway, so basically the first half, we just kind of talked about what Dion does, the kind of content that he puts out with his friend Saleem. What's Saleem up to these days, actually?
So, yeah, he's actually, of course, amidst the, shutdowns, going back to school, and trying to basically kickstart a new career. So, like, not like a new career, but like something as like a backup.
Oh, sure.
In the event that like this doesn't work out, which, I've had very serious conversations with him in the past about that. It's like, look, like you should have something set up as a primary, and then we do this as a secondary. And if we happen to make more money with the channel, then that's great.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. I mean, that's kind of my whole goal. I love doing podcasting. I think it's great. I mean, especially like when I've had like, a rough week or something like that. I mean, that's why I do the entertainment portion, because it's away from politics. Because I tell you, sometimes politics can be very exhausting, extremely exhausting.
Yeah.
And that's why I did my entertainment channel, Niner, where I talk about all things entertainment, and because I love talking about stuff like that. But like when I retire out of the military, because like I said, I dropped my retirement packet this August. I want to be a social worker, and just like, because I want to help people, because I know that's something that I know I can do very well, because people are very comfortable talking with me. But, this is more of like a hobby, but it's a hobby that I would love to make some money off of as well.
Oh, absolutely. No, yeah. Yeah, from the ad revenue, we make pretty much close to nothing. I mean, we just cashed out on like, I don't know, it was like couple $1,000s out of like 6 months worth of work. Like that's nothing, you know?
Yeah.
So, like we're not doing this for the money, necessarily, but it would be nice if we could make like, you know, a couple grand a month.
Absolutely. I mean, that would be kind of ideal. So, but anyway, look, we're gonna go into like current events. Now, we're not gonna really go into the COVID bit because that's been beaten over so many times. I feel like that's just gonna we're all gonna discuss stuff that everyone's already talked about. So, so what do you think about this idea that Kim Jong-un is expired? Because apparently his doctor and his staff have already been found dead. Apparently.
Yeah, I think it's very interesting. I've seen some things going on social media. That some reports think that he's dead. Some reports think that he's in a vegetative state. I don't know what to make of it. I'm pretty sure the CIA already knows because you know it's the CIA, for heaven's sake. But I don't know. I kind of hope he's dead, but I kind of hope he isn't, because he's just a ruthless POS leader, you know.
Yeah.
So I don't know. We'll see what happens with that, because it'd be very interesting to see his next of kin take over.
Yeah, it's supposed to be his sister apparently, and apparently she's worse than he is, which I think is just, you know, I think it's just absolutely like ludicrous. Like I've done a lot of research about the DPRK, right? And a lot of stuff, it gives me like I picture what would happen if I ever, because I'm a huge anti-communist. If I ended up over there, they would find that out and probably take me to a labor camp, which terrifies me to no end, because then I would never be seen again. Because they're so hard to track down. There'd be no way for me to, I mean, they're about as low-tech as you can possibly get in that country, except unless you're in the higher echelons. Right. But, you know, I read about all the horrendous things that go on over there, all the human rights violations. I mean, everything, like those labor camps are essentially equivalent to, you know, concentration camps back in the 30s and 40s. Now, people might say that's over-exaggerating, but it's about the conditions the people are kept in, and the fact that, you know, like, for example, a pregnant North Korean woman, like, they'll either choose to let her have the baby, or they'll cause her to have a miscarriage, or like when the baby gets born, they'll execute the baby right in front of her, or they'll feed it to dogs. I mean, it's absolutely just horrific to hear the stuff that goes on there. But like, and to think that, I mean,
they also hold public executions in the literal largest stadium in the world, you know, for just simply disobeying the rules. Like, they'll literally just execute people gladiator style, you know, like, and like, how does that even, like, it's just unbelievable what they do.
Oh, absolutely.
And then Kim Jong-un has these, like, you know, 32 different hairstyles for men, and he doesn't even follow his own rule. It's just like, wow, it's unbelievable.
Well, it tends to be that most of the people that, you know, tend to not practice what they preach. I mean, that's what separates a dictator from a leader, kind of deal. So
exactly.
But I find it interesting, to say the least. But, you know, I guess we're never really going to find out until later on down the line. So, but you know, when it comes down to like stuff that's going on in the world aside from COVID, what are some things that you're noticing nowadays, like especially within the United States?
Oh gosh. I mean, it kind of relates to COVID, but it's kind of going down the tubes right now, because like, ever since we shut the economy down, we've noticed that how effective it is towards the world, because like, because of us shutting this, I mean, you know, first of all, Antifa is just totally quiet. They're loving it.
Yeah, I noticed that.
You know, and you have these groups left and right that are in a massive uproar. And because, you know, every job is essential. I don't care what it is. Every job is essential. And we literally just handed our rights over on a silver platter to the government, which is exactly what the Founding Fathers did not want to have happen. Yeah. And here we are, where we handed our rights over on a silver platter. So, you know, some of the things that are going on, like these, you know, massive, you know, we've added $5 trillion in our deficit in the past month.
Yeah.
I'm like, how in the world does that happen?
Yeah.
So it's pretty scary right now, and it's a good preview to what communism would look like. I mean, it'd obviously be much worse, but, you know, it'd be a good preview to what communism would look like. Look, I've seen a video of Costco, I think in LA, of like a 5-mile long line.
Oh.
Yeah. It's like, and they would only allow like 10 or 20 people in at a time. It's like, oh my gosh. Like, you got to be kidding me. So those are the things that I've been noticing that have been happening in our country. Like, we literally turned over to a socialist nation pretty damn quickly. And I really hope that people are going to protest the crap out of this, because people are not happy.
Yeah. Well, and the biggest thing that I talked about when it came down to those protests, right? Now, people are free to disagree with me on this, right? I don't care if you protest, just don't do it that it affects the work of doctors and nurses to get to their patients, which I know some people say, well, people should be free to protest. Like I said, I don't care if you protest, but if you're like out there blocking roads, because like we made the same argument when Antifa was blocking roads, making it difficult for first responders and police to do their jobs. I mean, the principle is all the same way. Stand off the side of the road, go on a sidewalk, and just do it to where, yes, people can still hear you, but just don't do it where it affects people's like livelihood or affects their line of work, which I think that's what I've seen a lot of the protests do, is cause a little bit more harm than good. I mean, what do you think?
Yeah, typically when people protest, it's pretty idiotic, in my opinion, because it's like, look, there's a protest near where I live, to hashtag reopen.
Yeah.
And there is not one reopen sign. I was like, hello? Like, if the point of the protest is to protest the stay-at-home orders, why isn't there any reopen signs? So I gave him some good feedback on that. It's like, look, like, if you want a good protest, make some damn signs.
Yeah.
I mean, it's that obvious. And people who go in the middle of the street to block traffic, like, how is that going to help?
It's not.
It's exactly. It's not going to help. And then you have people that are just, they don't even know why they're protesting. They go because of the groupthink, and they don't even know why they're there.
Oh, yeah.
So, and the reason why I haven't gone to these protests yet is because I'm afraid that the government will be like, well, we're just going to like mass arrest these people, and they have the capability of doing that.
Mm-hmm.
And it's just ridiculous. So that's why I haven't gone yet. I'm going to one on May 1st, but to film that. But some of these protesters are just idiots. They don't know how to protest correctly, and they don't know how to make a damn sign. Like,
yeah, I just looked at this comment by somebody goes by the name of Blue Ninjas. It's like, why the heck do you only have 22 subs? If you're in here and sub to Alex, Hillary will come to your house in the middle of the night. Okay, I've never had that kind of comment before.
I know Blue Ninja. I know, he's a subscriber of mine.
Okay, I'm like, oh. That is kind of funny, actually. So, but yeah, I feel the concern. The one thing I've actually noticed is like our carbon footprint has dropped dramatically, which I think is pretty interesting, actually. I do think, like, when it comes down to this, right, I think it's okay for people to, I know I didn't really want to go in the COVID bit, but I just got to get my 2 cents out there. But like, it's okay for people to be concerned, but I don't think people should be so paranoid as to stockpiling stuff that's going to go bad, which I think was like the initial mistake. And I honestly think that there's a lot that people could do, and I think like the media has to do with like telling people, it's like not necessarily telling them what they should do, but they should be like, well, here's what you would do in this case, and this is like the smart thing to do. But I think a lot of people are just too paranoid, and I've been saying this for the past week. We have technology at the tip of our fingertips. Every smartphone has access to the internet, but it seems as though people are dumber nowadays. Like, they're not using common sense. Like, in the state of Maryland, for crying out loud, they had over 100 people call in to say, is it okay to drink bleach and stuff like that? Which I thought was crazy because, there's warning labels on bottles for a reason. There's warning labels on Tide Pods for a reason. I mean, all you got to do is just take a look at that real quick. I mean, what do you think?
I think, okay, so with that comment the president made about quote unquote injecting Lysol, I thought that was so funny because it was like, first of all, nobody even read the quote or checked the context of it, and second of all, he wasn't even talking about that. And third, people are absolutely stupid. Like, if you have to ask a company to say, is it okay for to inject Lysol? I'm sorry, you're a moron.
Mm-hmm.
Like, those are the people that should be, staying at home.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, but I get you. I mean, I do think, like, when it comes down to stuff like that, I mean, yeah, people should have a right to be concerned, but
Of course.
at the same time, you need to educate yourself. I mean, don't just take the word of somebody else. I mean, I always tell people, you can listen to what I have to say, but do your own research afterwards. And if I'm wrong, you can prove me wrong, which, I get it from both sides of the spectrum, from both liberal and conservative. Anytime they try to put out some content on Facebook, and it's not correct, I correct them on that. And of course, I get called every name in the book. The conservatives will call me a libtard, they'll call me a communist, a socialist, they'll call me all that stuff. And then the liberals will call me a racist, a KKK member, a Nazi. They'll call me all that stuff in the book, right? Which I'm so used to that. But that's why I left so many political Facebook pages, because I was getting nowhere with them.
Right.
But like, the reason why, it's a little term that I'm used to saying: trust but verify, right?
Yeah.
Trust the source, but verify its origins, essentially, because there was actually a content creator a while back that actually tried to push out content. It's like, this is what we just read from the Babylon Bee. I'm like, the Babylon Bee is a satire website. Why are you looking at that? I mean, so it's just, okay. Blue Ninja just clarified. It says, I meant not subbed. So if he's not subscribed to my pages, so.
Nice job, Blue Ninja.
Yep, that's hilarious. So, but it's just. But I think that's the biggest thing that's concerning me, is like, the populace is not educating themselves, and you've got information at the touch of your fingertips, right? And I put at the beginning of my video, the initial trailer for this video, it says, Walter Cronkite once said, in seeking the truth, you have to get both sides of the story, which I cannot stress how important that is. Like, in order for you to understand what's going on, you have to look at things from both sides. Check what both sides are saying, and then see what they're talking about. And then, if you're not 100% sure on it, just verify the information. Even if you don't think it's correct, even if you just don't think it's right, there's no harm in actually checking it. And if you're not sure about going to Snopes, I mean, you don't have to go to Snopes. You don't have to go to Fact Check. You can go to multiple websites right there. I mean,
right. Well, see, the problem is with a lot of people is, and I do this too. When you search something up on Google, they never go past the first page. Mm-hmm. And I've noticed that in college. I noticed that now. Because people just want when people look at something, they look for the headline that they already agreed with.
Yeah.
Like, for example, like with abortion, if a conservative looks up, why they look up the term why abortion is bad, and then they go and but that search term is already biased, right? Like, why abortion is bad. So they're obviously going to find a source, and they go, look, this website, which is already credible, says abortion is bad, even though that was their search term. Yeah. So, they should look up the opposite, why abortion is good, and then say, okay, or even a neutral thing, like, facts about abortion, or whatever, I think it's really idiotic of people, because I call people out all the time. Like, I remember there was this one time, a liberal called me out. I was like, well, Planned Parenthood is always good. It's like, okay, I can, without even looking at the website, I know what search term you used. And I looked up exactly what I knew she was looking up, and I found the website that fast. It was so incredibly stupid of her to say, oh, well, why abortion is good, and then she just finds the literal first website. It was from a left-leaning source. They don't check the source. They don't, like you said, they don't verify, and then they only read the headline.
Yeah.
And again, I'm guilty too. Sometimes I shit post on the internet, to literally be like, oh, well, this article sounds good. Read this, but I don't read it. Sometimes I do that. Usually I'll read it. But people look at the headlines and they'll just repost that without actually looking at the article.
I've actually been guilty of that as well, of just reading the headlines and just getting angry about it, or just saying, well, that's not true, really. But then I would actually click on it. And the thing is, like, here's the amazing thing when it comes down to, like, reading those headlines, right? I remember a while back, right, I was reading an article, right, and it said, soldiers, like, if, for example, people that enlist in the military, if they don't go to basic training right away, they're in the delayed entry program, right, which means they still have a chance to kind of back out if they get cold feet of joining the military, which that's what it's called. But apparently this article was saying is like people that signed up for the delayed entry program are now fighting for veteran benefits, right? And I about lost my freaking mind. But then my buddy told me, was like, hey man, that's Duffel Blog. That's a satire article. I'm like, I took a big deep breath and just like, oh my God, I thought I was going to lose my mind for a second. Yeah. Because like, but the thing is, I've been guilty of that too. Is like reading the headline. But the thing is, if the headline is sizzling enough, if it's got enough appeal to the first eye, like, and I'll even use another example. Let's say, for example, you remember the story of Bo Bergdahl, right?
I do.
Okay, so let's say, for example, if Bo Bergdahl was sentenced to death, you know what those headlines would say? American POW sentenced to death. That's the first thing that would be said in the headlines without the real context. And then guess what it's going to do? It's going to cause a massive, just people would be freaking out over that, you know? Just like, don't join the military because if you get captured, you're going to get sent to... I mean, that's exactly what the American, at times, like the psyche is of some people. They don't look into the context of the story. They just see the headline and that's what they make their decision upon. Right.
No, yeah, I agree. And I try to call people out. It's like, look, like, I know you, like, you know, because especially when I see people on Facebook, like, you know, within minutes posting different articles, I'm like, I know you didn't read that.
Mm-hmm. Oh yeah.
So yeah, I try to call people out where I can, where they don't read an article, and it's you know, and then of course, you know, when you call people out, then they'll actually read the article. It's like, well, no, I actually read the article. You know, it's like, no, you didn't. Like,
well. All right, so here's another good example, right? Somebody tried, because like I'm gonna be very open about it. Is like when he was still running, I was a huge fan of Mayor Pete, and I still am, you know, because I like a lot of his ideas, right? But somebody tried pushing out an article about him apparently abusing dogs, and I come to find out that newspaper article that they found was a newspaper article you can create, and it's actually like it's a certain website, and then like. The person's like, no, this is a real article right here. And I was like, no, here, let me show you. I sent them the link to it, and I created a whole new newspaper article saying that George Soros in 2015 was going to help fund President Trump's campaign. And he's like, well, I still believe it's true. I was like, no, I just showed you how it's factually incorrect, you know? But it's just, it's people not doing research enough to it. Because like that was the first thing I looked up about that, you know? It just... I always check the source of the material, and if I feel it's good enough, then I'm going to give my point of view on it. But you know, it's like you said, some people are just too lazy. They just see the headline and just go with it.
Right. And that's the problem. People just read headlines and they don't go any further into it.
Oh, absolutely. So when it comes down to it, if you were to give any advice to people out there about, like, for the next 60 or 90 days, like, what are some things you would probably tell them, like, to look forward to? Because right now there's a lot of people that are still kind of freaking out right now. What would you say?
So in terms of advice, you know, I think it's good that people are fighting against the government, but they need to fight back 10 times harder. Because if they want their rights back and they want their rights back fast, they need to fight back 10 times harder. And that does not mean going out to your state capitol and then just sitting there with your thumb up your butt. Yeah. No, that does not mean that. It means sending letters to your representatives, calling your governor every single day, every hour, and making sure that he knows or she knows that I need to get back to work. Because 26 to 20, I can never say it right, 26 to 27 million people are out of work right now.
Yep.
That's so bad. Within 1 month. That's unbelievable. And people, again, they just sit idly by. So I would suggest to people, you know, fight back in a different way.
Yeah.
You know, don't just sit there with the stupid sign and say, oh, well, we need to be reopened. No, that's not going to do anything. The governor is just going to be like, well, I'm just going to ignore those people. Well, you should, in fact, do, you know, calling your representatives every single day, sending them letters, do whatever you can. Literally think outside the box. Like one of those protests that people were in cars just driving around, that was cool. I was like, wow, that's incredible. That's a different idea. So, you know, people need to come up with a better idea. Go to the governor's house, for example. That's a different kind of protest. You know, but at the same time, I just want to talk about the release of prisoners. That's been happening here in Washington. Has that been happening where you live?
Oh, I really don't know, honestly. I just know in the state of Georgia, they've started to reopen essential businesses. Now, how that's going to work out, only time will tell.
Right.
I can't remember I don't know what Governor Kemp was doing as far as prisoners are concerned, but please go ahead.
Yeah, so in Washington, our wonderful governor decided to say, let's just mass release prisoners. And some of these prisoners are convicted murderers, sexual, any kind of sexual crime you can think of, rapists, everything else.
Yeah.
And thankfully that got rejected.
Yeah.
But my point being is, like, because that's happening, people should start arming up, with exercising their Second Amendment rights. And luckily that's an essential business here in Washington. But yeah, no. So because of that's happening, I've actually, received my first firearm here.
What'd you get?
Yeah, I got a Glock 45. I'm going to be picking up a 6-hour P226 here pretty soon as well.
Okay.
Yeah, they're really good guns. I love them. But yeah, no. People should start arming up, and it's funny because these idiot liberals that have fought against gun rights from the day they were born are now protesting those same gun rights that they fought for when they need it.
Yep.
And it's
How
super
convenient.
ironic. Yeah, and people are suddenly becoming more conservative once the government says we're taking away your rights. And I think that's, I hope that gives them a good lesson. It's like, oh, maybe we shouldn't trust the government as much. Maybe we should have a limited government, as our Constitution says.
It's kind of like that one term from Ronald Reagan is like, the worst thing you can hear is, I'm from the government and I'm here to help.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
But the thing is, like, I want everybody to understand something. Is like when Dion was talking about like fighting the government, he's not talking about violently, because like that
Right.
he made that abundantly clear, and I don't want anybody taking him out of context right here. So we just wanted to make that abundantly clear. But I'm in agreement with you. I mean, I'm a firm believer that you should not open the government until it's like everything else, until you know for certain that people are going to be okay, because there's a lot of people that were like those Florida beaches out there that were people are started contracting coronavirus like that, which I thought was stupidity right there, that people shouldn't be doing stuff like that. But at the same time, I do think the governors need to execute common sense when it comes down to stuff like that, but I can't tell a governor what to do. So, but
Right. Well, for example, in Washington, one of our biggest boosters to our economy is fishing.
Yeah.
And we are the only state in the United States that have banned fishing because of this coronavirus.
Yeah.
So,
Crab fishing and fishing in general, like up there, especially with all the salmon up there. Oh, absolutely. I mean, being from the Pacific Northwest, I'm very particular about my salmon. I won't get salmon anywhere else, but but the thing is, like, if I was to give anybody advice about like what to do, is like just know that I think this pandemic has brought out some of the very worst in people, but at the same time, it's brought out the very best in people, like the first responders, the doctors, the nurses, the people that are actually sacrificing their time and their lives to ensure that people, I mean, I'm calling it now. I think that they're going to be Time Magazine's People of the Year, honestly. And, people can have an opinion about Time Magazine, that's fine, but I think that they're going to get that kind of credit because they deserve it, because I know a lot of first responders, I know a lot of people that are nurses, some of them are in my family and Claire's family. They are wonderful people, and they are just working so hard to take care of them. Being an RN is a really hard job. It's a really hard job, and I can honestly say they just do a great job every day. So
absolutely, I completely agree. They are the heroes of the world. Like, these politicians, they're not heroes. The people who are real heroes are people on the ground, like those first responders. They're great people.
Oh, absolutely. So, all right, before we sum up shop, Dion, go ahead and tell everybody where they can find you and all the content that you put out.
Yeah, well, Alex, I just wanted to thank you so much for having me on here. You can find me at The Color Conservatives on YouTube. You can also find me on Twitter, which I never post anything on, The Real Dose of Dion. So again, Alex, thank you so much for having me on here, and I really appreciate it.
Absolutely, man. I mean, you're always welcome. You have an open door invitation to come back to the show whenever you want to. I mean, hell, we can even talk about like ranting about stuff like that. I mean, we can do whatever. We can talk about whatever, man. So, all right. Anyway, thank you very much, Dion, for joining me. All right, everybody. Hopefully, everybody enjoys the rest of their Sunday, and we are rounds complete.
Cool. Right on. Thanks, guys.
And stream.